What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for another preview for you guys. It is the last home game of the season, Tottenham against Brentford, as we're bidding to get in the Conference League, get in the Europa League. What are we bidding for now?
I don't know. Look, I guess we have an outside shot of the Europa League, but it looks increasingly unlikely at this point, given Brighton's position, how they're playing. So, to be honest, it's looking like Conference League, given Villa's last two fixtures. If we get a win, we'll probably get that Conference League spot.
When you're looking at these two teams coming into this game, I mean, Spurs, just flattering to deceive in most games, to be honest. And it seemed as though that Brentford were on the beach for a time, but their recent form, actually, they've come back a bit, and I think they've only lost one in their last 4 games, won 3 of those games. So how are you assessing Brentford coming into this one? Obviously, the big news is Ivan Toney getting that big ban, 8 months. He's obviously going to be a massive loss for them for the remainder of the season and also the first half of next season. But how are you assessing Brentford coming into this one?
Look, they're always going to be a solid team. They're always going to be tough to break down and tough to beat. If you can see in their last 5 how many goals they conceded, even though they in their last 5 they haven't really been playing for much, but they've only conceded 3 goals in their last 5 games. So they're playing really strong defensively, like they have been all season. They're always a solid team to play against. So it's never an easy game against Brentford. Even if you win the game, it's always by the odd goal or so. It's never an easy game. So they always have chances from set pieces, long throws, corners. They're really, really strong. And we know our defence is brittle right now. I know we kept a clean sheet against Crystal Palace, which was an improvement, but I don't see Tottenham right now in possession over the last couple games, being able to break down a Brentford team who are always going to do the basics. They're not going to throw too much caution to the wind. They're always got a fairly pragmatic style to them. Even though Ivan Toney's not playing, I still expect them to have a threat on the counter-attack if Tottenham are dominating possession as well, with Mbeumo and Ivan Toney playing through the lines. So,
you mean Wissa?
Sorry, Wissa
started
and Mbeumo. Wissa and Mbeumo. And they got another young striker. What's his name? I'm trying to get his name now. Who's also impressed me. Sharda, number 9. He's a young striker who's come into the team for the last few games. He's looked bright as well. So even in general play, I do expect them to be a bit of a threat. I do expect Tottenham to maybe dominate possession. But I expect Brentford to be very hard to break down. I expect them to create chances from set pieces. And I think Tottenham are in for a tough day, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, seeing as it is our last home game at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, our home form, as much as, everyone wants to say how terrible we've been all season, our home form has been pretty good, or okay, let's say. And last year, they did come here, we beat them 2-0. But we are unbeaten to Brentford since they've returned to the Premier League. 2 draws and 1 win for Tottenham. Would you not say there's a bit of confidence about you coming into this game? Because we are good at home.
To be honest, no, because I know we're good at home, and I know that we've kind of beaten them. We have a good record against them, but I think Brentford come into this game with a bit of confidence themselves. They want a reaction potentially after the Ivan Toney news. Maybe that would give them that bit of extra motivation to get a result in this game. And although our home form is good, our last 4 home games, we beat Brighton very, very luckily. We lost 3-2 at home to Bournemouth. We had a good performance against United and drew 2-2. And then we beat Palace 1-0, where although we were quite good defensively, I thought going forward we didn't offer too much, to be honest, apart from the goal that we scored. Brentford are a very, very solid defensive team, and they're very aggressive as well. So and also, given their result last week, they actually have an outside shot of the Conference League now. If they can get a result against Spurs, if they can beat us. So I expect them to be really up for this game as well.
You know what? If they do beat us this weekend, us, and let's say, for argument's sake, Villa lose this weekend, all of us will be locked on 57 points going into the last game of the season.
They'll have 56, no?
56, sorry. 56, 57, 57.
And they do play Man City last game. So... Right. Look, but then again,
Man City could have won the league by then.
Exactly, and they might have an FA Cup final and Champions League final to think about as well. So they could definitely.
But let's be honest. Even if Man City play their 3rd team, it's probably a team capable enough to win the league.
Correct. There's no guarantee that Brentford win that game, but there's also no guarantee that they don't get a result as well, given those factors. So I'm envisaging a very difficult game here. I think they're a very well settled side as well under Thomas Frank. And I see Spurs not being able to keep a clean sheet because unless we defend the set pieces really well and make sure that we're not, because I watched them against West Ham, the amount of chances they were just creating from set pieces was ridiculous. And this is against West Ham team, yes, much changed, but are known for how well they can defend those set pieces situations. And they were creating chances for fun. And Spurs wise, do I think we are going to be able to keep them out, either from a counter-attack or from a set piece? I just highly doubt it. And on the flip side, are we really going to create enough chances to say that we're definitely going to score more than a goal? I also have my big doubts because I think our chance creation over the last couple of games has really dried up. Defensively against Palace, we were good. Villa, not so good again. So I think Brentford come into this game, and I see them setting up in a way that is really going to make life difficult for Tottenham, in my opinion. And I do see us struggling.
The way I see it, I just feel like against these kind of teams, we just look so much more comfortable at home than we do away from home. And when you're looking at the no Toney thing, I was listening to a Brentford fan calling into Talk Sport yesterday, one of the Brentford fan channels. And he says, they play a very specific way under Ivan Toney. And when
Thomas Frank.
Huh? No, I'm Toney. I mean, with Ivan Toney playing
Ivan
up front.
Toney, yeah.
They play a very different way with Ivan Toney playing up front. And when Wissa is playing up front, they play a completely different way. And it'll be interesting to see how that kind of impacts the game. Like with Ivan Toney, maybe they use a bit more route one, go a bit more direct and look for Toney to get the knockdowns and stuff like that. But they don't have that threat when Toney is not playing, that aerial threat. So do you think that plays into our hands or plays against us?
I think whenever they don't have their best player, it plays into our hands for sure, because Ivan Toney has been one of the best strikers in the Premier League this season. He's bagged goals in for fun. As you say, he's a massive aerial threat. He's really good at holding up the ball. So obviously that will be a help. If Toney was playing, I might be thinking of Brentford win. That's why I'm thinking, to be honest, even without Toney, they still have that threat from set pieces. They're probably a bit of a less of a threat in general play because he's not there, especially if Tottenham get in a situation where they're in the low block and Brentford are coming on to us. I do think that will benefit us because I don't see Mbeumo and Wissa getting the same physical advantage that Toney's getting. But I still see them being a massive threat from set pieces. And as well, Mbeumo and Wissa are still big threats on the counter-attack. If they can get the supply to them, especially, I don't know if Dyer's going to play or not, probably not. But
I think he's injured.
If Mbeumo is up against Longley on that side, and they're playing on the counter, I mean, I saw him absolutely burn Van Dijk for pace the other week against Liverpool, and he scored. It was offside, but if they get themselves in those kind of situations, I do see them getting a bit of success. So that's what I'm worried about a bit. I'm actually worried that even though it's our last home game, we're going to want to win the game, obviously last home game in front of our own fans. So I do see us going very attacking, trying to put on a bit of a show, trying to create a chance to score goals. But I think in a way that plays into Brentford's hands. They'll see that coming. And I don't think we're good enough right now to, if we go attacking, like for sure we're going to create chances. We obviously have the individual quality with Kane and Son. If Kulusevski starts, we do have that quality to create openings 100%. But do we have that quality within the structure to create it with regularity up against this really tough Brighton team, Brentford side, who are really solid defensively and really aggressive as well? I just have my doubts in this game, to be honest. And also they play with a very specific system with the 5-3-2. I don't know if they'll stay with that, but usually they'll play with the 3 in midfield as well, and that can give them that advantage in midfield.
In terms of the ones to watch, we've picked out David Raya and Mbeumo. Obviously, David Raya we've spoken about a lot on this channel, being linked with Spurs quite heavily, but also linked with Chelsea and Manchester United. I mean, what's your assessment on David Raya? Because, I mean, we have spoken about him a lot, but we are coming up against him, but probably in the last time in a Brentford shirt. Probably,
because, yeah, he seems to be leaving this summer. I think he's an excellent keeper. He's had 2 excellent seasons at Brentford, and even in the Championship he was really good as well. I think he's shown himself to be one of the top performing goalkeepers in the Premier League this season. He's really good at playing out the back as well. He's really comfortable with the ball at his feet. I think he's tall. He's really good at coming for crosses. He's not one of those keepers who gets out-muscled in the area when there are set pieces. He comes and commands his box as well. He's a pretty good shot stopper, I would say. I would say there may be better shot stoppers in the league, but I think his shot stopping is still pretty excellent. So I think he's pretty much the full package as a Premier League goalkeeper in the modern game. 27 years of age as well. I think he's just had a top season. He barely makes any mistakes. He's not one who you see make big errors, big clangers. He's one of those who, even in his worst games, he might get beaten with a couple of shots, but he's not making big errors. So I think he's a really, really top keeper, and it's going to be tough to beat him on Sunday.
Yeah,
on Saturday.
Most definitely will. And in Mbeumo, the other player that we brought up, 7 goals and 6 assists this year. 1 more goal, and that doubles his tally from last year where he got 4 goals and 7 assists. I mean, he's a very hard-working player, isn't he? And he likes to tire the opposition defence out with his direct running. How do you assess him? Because he's like nearly doubled his tally from last year. So how much better has he been?
Yeah, he's one of these players. He's relentless, absolutely relentless in the way he continues to try and run behind. He takes players on. He's one of those players where I don't think he's the best finisher in the world, but he'll literally have 2 or 3 shots per game. And law of averages state, and he does have a decent left foot, so law of averages say like he will get a few on target and he will get a few goals with how relentless he is. And he's a really massive threat in behind. I think last season, he was guilty of missing a lot of big chances. He would get loads of chances and his finishing wouldn't be up to scratch. I still think he's quite similar to that this season, although I just think he's improved his finishing quite a bit. That's why he's getting a few more goal contributions this season. I think he's a really good player. I don't think he's like a player who's probably top 6 quality right now, to be honest, unless he really kind of tightens up his finishing. But in terms of like the amount of chances he creates for himself and the amount of times he's like running in behind and threat he causes, he always gives you trouble. He never gives you a moment's rest, and that's one of the big advantages of someone like Mbeumo. I really think he could be a top 6 player if he was to really tighten up his finishing and make him a bit more clinical. Then I really do think he could easily be getting 10, 15 goals a season. But right now he's just below that bracket. I do think he's a really good like mid-table winger or forward. That's why obviously he's doing really well for Brentford. But he's going to be their main threat for sure on Saturday. He's just I do worry about him with his pace and with the way Romero likes to defend. I reckon Mbeumo is going to fancy his chances occasionally of trying to get ahead of him and trying to get round him, because Romero likes to be on the front foot. And yes, we'll try and cut off the supply, but if he does mistime any challenges, Mbeumo is going to be there to try and get in behind him. And especially someone Longley, like he'll really fancy his chances up against Longley, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think most strikers will, to be fair, especially if you've got a bit of pace about you. But this is the formation that they played in the last game, and in their 2-0 win against West Ham was a 4-3-3. But if you look back at the game before that against Liverpool at Anfield, it was a 3-5-2 or a 5-3-2, whichever way you want to look at it. How do you expect them to set up? Do you reckon they'll go for the 3-5-2 more against us?
I think if they're smart, they'll match us up. Make sure that they're not allowing our backline any advantages on counter attacks. If they match us up, it's going to be very difficult to find any sort of advantages apart from maybe individually on the wings, on the wing backs. Maybe Porro can get the better of Rico Henry. Maybe Davis can get the better of Hickey. But I do envisage away from home against a team like Tottenham, they do usually go back to a back 3, play more on the counter attack, and they play more pragmatic, smarter way of football. And then as well, they can build up play to get swing crosses in the box. They can build up play to win set pieces from that position. I think maybe they might see our defence and think they smell blood and go for a 4-3-3 and add an extra striker in there. But I do think, in my opinion, if they did that, that would play into our hands a bit more, because I do think one less defender maybe would lead to more space for our attacking players, and maybe all of a sudden we might find a few more openings, albeit I still think they'll do well restricting us. We might find a few more openings than if they play a back 5. But I do think they'll revert to that back 5, which I think serves them very well anyway.
Yeah, I got a feeling if this was at the Brentford Community Stadium, they might go 4-3-3. But because it's at Tottenham and because of our good form at Tottenham, I do envisage them going for a 5-3-2 and it being very, very difficult for us. But let's have a chat about Ivan Toney, because obviously he's got suspended for 8 months. What do you think about that? Do you not think it's a bit of a harsh punishment, whereas you look at Trippier and he only got 10 weeks?
I mean, I don't know the extent to what he did, I guess, because I know it was on betting charges.
I think it was over 200 accounts, they were saying.
Over 200 accounts, but what did he do? What did he bet on? What was the
apparently earlier in the season he bet on Arsenal to win the league. That's why he's now joking.
I mean, did he bet on Premier League games? Did he bet on like?
Well, apparently a lot of these charges were from when he was back at Peterborough.
Okay, well that's very harsh then. If they're charging him retrospectively for betting,
I think some of them were at Brentford, but still a big percentage of them were from when he was back at Peterborough.
I mean, 8 months is very harsh. They do seem to have thrown the book at him 100%, and other people have had and didn't Andros Townsend have a thing? And I don't know. I can't
remember what his ban is.
I think he just got a fine. I can't remember if he actually got suspended or not.
like Trippier's was obviously, I don't think it was as many as what Ivan Toney's done, but what he got was 10 weeks and a bigger fine than Toney.
But Trippier, if I remember rightly, he got banned because he fed a friend information about his transfer, and his friend put a bet on.
Isn't that worse?
I don't know. I don't know what Toney did. I don't know what he bet on, so I can't say if it's worse or not. Like maybe he bet on a game inside his own league, and that you can't do that, like under Premier League rules. So I don't. Like, it's hard for me to say unless I know specifics on what bets he put on and the frequency and all this kind of stuff. But it does seem very harsh on the face of it to give him an 8-month ban based on all these things. But I mean, if he, I don't know what he bet on, so it's hard to say.
Yeah, and I was listening to Alex Crook as well, who called in to talk sport as soon as the news was said, and he was saying that that it's unfair to some of the teams, like maybe a Southampton a few weeks ago. Southampton played Brentford, and obviously Ivan Toney was playing, but everyone knew these charges were about to happen, and everyone knew the ban was about to be given to them, and Brentford could take advantage of that, maybe with the teams that they have. I know they're not playing a relegation team, but they could have their say in the European battle with the Conference League. It could have potentially spoken about in the title race as well with Man City. So what would you say to that?
Yeah, I mean, I get the argument, but it's like you can't run the league in that way where you can say, okay, look, we'll give Ivan Toney... Look, let's say he is guilty. They can't then say, well, it's unfair if we ban him now because of the other team, so we'll let him play to the end of the season, then ban him. Because if it was a drugs ban or something, that you could make the same case. Oh, it's unfair. He's been playing the whole season, and now he's not. Like, I think if the timing is a bit unfortunate, but I think that's just the timing of the ban, and that's it. That you have to go through due process. You have to make sure that the charges you're making are ironclad and they're bulletproof. So when you make them, that they hold weight, and so. I think that this is the timing of it, and is it unfair? You can make that argument, but I just think it doesn't hold much water.
Does it not make more sense just to wait until maybe pre-season and then implement the ban? Because now he's got an 8-month ban, right? And for 3 of those months, there's no football being played, pretty much.
But he can't train as well. He can't train for 8 months. That's going to affect him, isn't it? Especially even during the pre-season.
They'll find ways to keep him fit. He'll train. I'm sure he'll train.
Obviously he can go to the gym, but he can't train with the team. That was obviously going to affect him, and that's not a good situation to be in. Does it make more sense? Again, I don't know. Like that they've. Again, like if you have a year-long ban, like for a drugs ban, that you also in the pre-season goes into. They don't say, okay, for those 3 months it doesn't count, or 2 months it doesn't count, and then it starts again. So that's the length of the ban, and that's it. I guess he's out till 2024. So he's out till January anyway. So it starts now, and that's it. I mean, I don't think it makes too much difference in my opinion.
And obviously it stops him getting his big move this summer, which would look like for everyone to see that he was going to get a big move this summer. And how do you think maybe other clubs are looking at him now? Do you think maybe someone will even take a punt on him at a cut deal, with this ban?
I think I think they should look at that, because in 6 months' time you're getting a very good striker, and I think if you can get him for a cut price deal. I think that would be to your advantage, in my opinion. I don't think it should deter clubs from looking at him just because he's had bans for retrospective bets from like when he was at Peterborough or whatever it was. Like, I think teams should definitely still look at him. Obviously, for a player who's I remember Luis Suarez when he was at when he moved to Barcelona, he had a massive ban because he bit a player in the World Cup, and he was banned for like the first 3 months of the season or something at Barcelona. And they still signed him for 75 million, and when he came back, he was amazing and hit the ground running. So I think obviously you have to take stock. Like, are you really going to part with like 50 million or whatever for a player who's out till January? If he had a big injury, as well, like say he had a big injury, he's out till January, I think as well, a lot of teams would just like take a beat, and maybe it won't be till January until they make that offer. But if let's say he's either if you wait till January, his price goes back up, or you can get him now for a bit less. I think teams should look at him.
Would you say yes to Spurs, Ivan Toney, right now?
I would say yes, but I would
especially
say yes.
When you're looking at it, right? Say he can only play till January. Harry Kane's contract running out 6 months after that. So it might be a good move for us.
I think he's really proven to be a bit of an all-round striker as well. I don't think he's like just a poacher or anything like that. I actually think he's really good at hold-up play. His passing ability is actually very underrated. He's really good at playing passing behind and playing through balls. I really do think he could develop at Tottenham as well. I do think if he comes here, he wants to be the number one striker as well. So he'll have that confidence about him with how many goals he's bagged. I think it'll be a good move for Tottenham, especially if we think about selling Harry Kane. I think there are not too many better options right now, especially from the Premier League.
Obviously, like, if we're trying to sell Harry Kane this summer, we probably would need Ivan Toney +1. But if Harry Kane is going to see out his contract and go on a Bosman, let's say, at the end of his contract, I mean, I think it'd be perfect for us.
Makes sense. I think he would be a good move, to be honest. I think he's really proven himself over 2 seasons now in the Premier League. He's getting better and better. So I'm a big fan of Ivan Toney. Actually.
All right, bring him in, Daniel. And also, Daniel loves a cut price deal as well, so it could be good value.
I don't know if Brentford, but the problem is I don't know if Brentford would accept a cut price deal just because he's out for 6 months, because they know in 6 months' time he's back. So while they allow him to go for less,
it's
just
true.
because he's got a 6-month ban.
It's true. So what isn't a cut price deal for him? What's like market value right now? What, 60 million, 70 million?
Well, how old is he? He's 26, I think, isn't he, or 27? Right, so at that age, with his experience, I think you're talking, at least 60 million. You might be able to get him 50 million plus add-ons, potentially.
Yeah, I think 50 million plus add-ons would represent brilliant value for someone like Toney, scoring as many goals as he scored this season. And I think, look, he's never going to be as good as Harry Kane, but I think no one's ever going to be as good as Harry Kane, let's be honest. So I think it would be a great deal for us. I really do.
I like him.
But look, that is our match preview. Just before we end, let's go to our predictions. What are you going for?
1-1. I think it's going to be a close game. I actually don't envisage a very good game of football, to be honest. I think they like to stop their opposition playing football with the way they play. They're very aggressive. I think Tottenham might have a few moments in the game where they create opportunities, but I envisage it being few and far between. But I think we'll get a goal from one of them. And I think Brentford will probably score from a set piece or a counter. And I think it'll just be a 1-1 draw.
I'm actually looking at it a bit similar to the Crystal Palace game, to be honest. A bit of a dull game, not much in it, and Spurs just nicking it by the odd goal. So I'm going to go for 1-0. I think if Toney was playing, I might have switched it up to 2-1 to Spurs or for 1-1. But because Toney's not playing the first game of his ban, I'm going to go for 1-0 to Spurs, and hopefully we can finish the season at Tottenham on a high going into the last game at Leeds, which is going to be a really difficult game, last game of the season. But those are our predictions. Let me know your predictions in the comment section below. That's our match preview. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always, come on you Spurs.